So, what did you think? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
So that leads us to the moment of truth. I'll be interested to see how this totally works out here. But Vince, where does The Weatherman 2005 rate on your Cageometer?
All right, so movie-wise, I give it a 7. Overall, I really enjoy the film. I thought it was, especially having watched it now years and years later, I thought it is crafted pretty well despite Nigel's objections. I really do like the fact that they show this guy who is trying to do good things and make changes, and he just keeps failing at it because ultimately he doesn't put his full heart into it, or he's making decisions based off of some unrealistic reality that he has built in his head, like around his marriage, right? He has this idea that he can fix it when in reality he can't. I like they show that, he's just failing, and then I like that they do start showing that he starts building a relationship with his kids. As awkward as it is, you do get some genuine moments that feel good, like when he takes her camel toe clothes shopping, and they start building a good relationship there. And then, he could have been a dick and told his son not to shove that hot dog in his mouth after he beat the shit out of his pedo counselor. But instead, he just creepily
put his arm around him, yeah.
Put his arm around his son. And Al Bundy's himself while he watches people enjoy food at the food court.
That aren't phallic.
That aren't phallic. Yes, I like that, and then he has that moment where he's able to finally kind of come to terms with everything with his dad and let go of this expectation that he, in my opinion, he had built up that his dad wanted him to be a writer, right? Like he finally lets that go and realizes, I am successful, I can build off of this, and I'll take the Hello America job and change my life. I like the fact that he did end up leaving his family, his kids behind to go do this in New York, because realistically, I feel like had he stayed, he would have just continued the endless loop of failing with them. Now, I would think after everything he's been through, he would then cherish those moments more that he spends with them on the weekends, and actually try to add value to it without being overbearing like he's been. And it gives them it gives his family some really needed time away from him.
It also gives him a chance to work on himself. I didn't really think about that until just now, but maybe he really needed to, I need to go off and work on me before I can really connect with my kids.
Yeah, good. I think the archery shows that. That's the first time we see him doing something just for himself. It started as an interaction he could have with Shelley, but we show you that he continues doing it on his own time and practicing at it and working at it. So,
he gets good at it and builds some confidence. I think, for his character, I tried to look at this as an optimistic perspective. He ends and is actually putting heart into these changes that he's been trying to make throughout the whole film, which I believe in this fictional guy's life years down the road, if you came back to him, you would see he is in a better place, and he does have a better connection with his family because he went and worked on himself and actually made an honest effort to be in their lives and stopped harassing Russ and let his ex-wife be happy. So I think that's how the movie plays out in my head. That's how his future goes. So, but there were like we talked about, there were some things in the writing that were confusing, i.e. the ACL, MCL stuff. I thought it was unnecessary to have the storyline about his daughter having a camel toe. Just added one more cringe factor and uncomfortable factor to the movie for me. So I could have done without that stuff. But it's definitely a movie I enjoy, and I'm glad that we got to see it again. I got to see it again because it's been quite some time since I watched it. Now, as far as Nick, I'll give him an 8 on this one because I felt like last movie I talked about, I felt like they Scorsese wasted him a little bit because there were moments where I really wanted Nick to be Nick. But in this film, I felt like if he had gone over the top, it would have just totally ruined the movie. I love how he played this character, just subdued, just really beaten down. And you mentioning that he has said that he's gone through a lot of the stuff personally, I feel like that genuinely came through his portrayal. So that added a lot to me. And so far, out of all the movies we watched, I think this is his best performance for me, because it's just it felt so authentic. It really did feel like you were watching somebody who is just kind of at their rope's end, right? Just really just frustrated and upset and just clinging on, trying to be a good person and trying to do the right thing and making all these dumb mistakes, right? And I like that he never went like super crazy. Even when he was, being a dick to that dude in the DMV, he could have gone all cagey on it. But he played it out like you would expect. Like, dude, just like get out of my fucking face, shut up, leave me alone. Yeah, and even with Russ, like I totally forgot that he slapped him with the glove. I really was like, he's gonna deck him, and it might be over the top. Nope, just slaps him with the glove. When he pounds on the pedo, like just very kind of like this, like he's doing something. Like it came across his character like doing something he's never done before. He's never been violent with anybody. He's never confronted anybody physically, and it's just this awkward scene that I thought he played really well. I made it believable. So I got to give him an 8 on that. Those are my thoughts.
Definitely felt like an authentic performance throughout. Just felt like, that he's lived through this.
Yes, it really, I mean, it felt relatable. Like when he's in moments of like desperation, like the way he portrayed it, it's like, yeah, okay, I can see that. I felt down on my luck at times. I forgot the tartar sauce once, like you can relate.
Who hasn't forgot the tartar sauce at some point or another?
Yeah. So we'll just skip Nigel. Patrick, what did you think about this movie?
Well, I thought Nigel made some good points.
I don't know what's weird. The recording got cut off and we didn't hear any of them. So I don't know.
Folks, we're sorry, but Nigel had to leave at this point. And he's not returning. He said he had a job lined up in New York.
He's got a different podcast he wants to do.
He's got a podcast in New York.
Something about Willem Dafoe.
Giving a ton of money, so I just said, screw my friends.
He chucked us.
I'm gonna go, yeah.
All right, Nigel, where does the weatherman rate on your crackle-o-meter? I mean your cageometer.
Well, I'm glad I didn't pay money to watch this movie. So that's the one positive I can say about Crackle. I originally wanted to give this a 4 out of 10. Just because I found the
So you thought that this movie was on par with Deadfall, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's all. I realized I can't do that. That's too mean.
You came to your senses, thankfully.
But I can't give it. I'm giving it a 5 out of 10 because I can't give it a 6 because to me 6 is enjoyable. I didn't find this movie as enjoyable. I agree with almost everything you guys say about this movie. We've covered it at length. The movie does have thought in it and it's got portrayals in it. It just didn't. Nothing hit me that right throughout the whole movie. And again, it was that takeaway that I got at the end that just sort of tanked the whole thing and made me feel like I just wasted an hour and 40 minutes to end up with a downer of an ending message that it made it feel like it was trying to be uplifting. And again, it's my interpretation, but I guess one of the benefits of this digital age is I have a webcam and internet connection, so my opinion on a movie is just as valid as Robert Ebert's.
Well, spoiler alert, Nigel, he's not giving out reviews anymore. To me, it was like this story about an irredeemable loser who sort of tries things, and the movie was telling me, try things and then immediately you'll fail at them, and then just keep doing that through life until you find the one thing you're really good at, and then you just do that and ignore everything else, even if it's your family and things that you thought you cared about. It just
and again, if that's not the meaning that they wanted to go with, I totally understand. That was just how I felt as I was watching it and how it was presented to me through the eyes of this character. So, yeah, that's why I throw it right in the middle of the road. You know, the opinion could change. I could watch it again later, like you guys have had, and interpret it in a different way. You know, and feel more positive about it. I just felt that it was not that uplifting of a story, which, you know, not stories don't have to be that uplifting. It was just that it felt to me like it was trying to be, but sending such a mixed message that sort of sabotaged its own presentation of it.
I get that.
So again, it's middle of the road, 5 out of 10, not terrible. It doesn't suck as much as I said it sucked. You know, it's obviously got craftsmanship and work put into it. So yeah. As for Nick Cage, I give him a 9 out of 10 in this.
Dang.
Wow.
I did actually loved his performance in this. And I think part of that is because he did such a good job of playing this guy that I fucking hate, you know, through the course of this movie, that there were multiple times when I was not watching Nicolas Cage anymore. I was watching this character of David Spritz or whatever, Spritz, and he fell into that character so well, and it felt effortless. It felt, you know, and it's not an over the top character; it's a realistic character. I get it. I think that's even harder to do than an over the top guy, like, you know, somebody like Eddie from Deadfall is probably easier to chew scenery and overact and scream about stuff, especially for somebody like Nick Cage. But even at the times when he, you know, starts to lose it, like when he calls Russ a pork fuck, like. It's subdued. It feels realistic. It feels like he's not screaming his head off at him, but he's a guy who's generally a nice guy, who's like, you know, losing his temper, but not all that experienced with it, which again, from what we know from Nick Cage, he can, you know, at a performance, lose his temper and make it look like he's actually losing his goddamn mind in a way that's great. But I still felt like I wasn't watching a subdued Nick Cage. I was watching an actual person react to these things and do this stuff, which I've really appreciated. And I didn't notice that his eyes were more blue than normal.
Might have just been my TV or something, but really, man,
but yeah, no, I really did love his performance in this as a guy that I hated so much.
Can I interject a quick quote from Gore Verbinski that I think really kind of shows why it's such a genuine performance?
Yeah.
Gore Verbinski said he met with Nick Cage when he was thinking about, you know, casting him, and Nick Cage said, "I am this guy. I don't have to act. This is me. He's been through marriages. He goes out and people harass him publicly. He's got father issues, and he's struggling like all of the rest of us against mediocrity in our lives. So there really was no one else who could possibly play the part of David Spritz than Nick Cage. They never even thought about someone else. So.
Damn, that's awesome, but also really sad. Like I feel really, if that's how Nick Cage sees himself,
I 100% think that's how he feels. Yeah, and it's probably gotten worse, especially now that he doesn't do, you know, mainstream movies anymore.
Yeah, because this was like the absolute height, like peak of his career when this was happening. So, which again, it's the peak of Dave's career. You know, he's can't get much more than Good Morning America or Hello America or whatever. So,
right.
Yeah, So yeah, I can't not sing his praise for this movie. As much as I didn't like the movie and was a downer on it, he was a very, very good performance out of it. And very enjoyable.
Okay, on my Cageometer, I also gave it a 7 because I agree there are flaws, and I do think that it gets muddled sometimes in its own message. I've seen the movie 6 or 8 times now, like I said, and personally, I love the movie. I feel like, you know, sometimes I end up liking movies better when I don't fully get it, you know, like I don't fully understand what they were trying to tell me, and it makes me want to keep coming back to the movie so I do understand it. And a lot of people don't like those types of movies, my wife included. She hates those kinds of movies, so I understand, Nigel, your feeling on the movie, and I do think that it it is, majorly the fault of the filmmakers, that they didn't make it clear. But sometimes it's nice to not have a clear message. I do kind of I get it. Like I don't fully understand what the hell the point was at the end. Like, what exactly are we meant to learn from this thing? I think the biggest thing that I took away from it was the charming yet melancholy father-son dynamic throughout the whole thing, which I think especially as a son. I totally identify with that. And I think that's actually the first time I ever saw it was, 2005, 2006, around the time that it first came out. And I think even then I had the exact same thing because I too kind of did what Dave Spritz did. And I chose a career path that my dad didn't understand and really didn't have a sense of what it was at all. Like, in his mind, the world that my dad grew up in, doing what I do for a living, which is, I shoot video for a living and I edit and that kind of stuff. And in my dad's eyes, that was, as foreign as like going to clown school or something. Like he couldn't possibly understand that. And like, when I was talking to him about what I wanted to do with my life, like he was just so baffled by it. And it made me feel disappointed in myself. Like, why can't I just do what my dad did or, follow in my dad's footsteps, do business or something like that. And I tried to just go like that because I felt that same kind of like pressure of like, well, I should do what my dad did because he was successful. So it would make me successful. But at the same time, it's like no part of me wants to do that. And I'm not good at it. And I wouldn't be good at it. And I was terrible at it in college. Like I was horrible at going into, standard business type classes and stuff like that. So I chose my own path. And, it took a while to actually get there because I was feeling that same kind of like pressure that Dave Spritz probably was when he wrote that shitty sci-fi novel. One thing I read, I saw in the behind the scenes of Steve Conrad, I think Steve Conrad, the writer, who said that he hears the saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but he's like, sometimes that's way off. I really feel like the apple does fall far from the tree because, he said that, like, I don't do what my dad did. My kids probably won't do what I do. So I don't think that that's necessarily true. And Dave Spritz is incredibly successful in the path that he took. It's just not what his dad would have chosen. And that makes him feel like he's not a success, which, to get somewhat sentimental, I lost my dad not long ago. But one of the things that I am really proud of is that I was able to show my dad how successful I became because of it. Because it's opened up this crazy, wonderful world for me of traveling and being able to have all these opportunities that, my dad could have never fathomed. When I told him I was going to go to clown school, he was like, there's no way you're ever going to be able to, like I've gone to Europe for free, like 5 different times now. I've traveled around the country. I've done all sorts of really fun and amazing things with this job. And he was able to see that, And I think that was kind of what happened in the movie was like Robert was able to see, oh shit, he just got a job that pays him $1 million. Obviously he's good at this, and I don't, I think there was actually issues on both sides there. Like, I don't think his dad ever tried to understand what he did. And I don't think he ever tried to understand where his dad was coming from. So I really identified with that whole butting of heads between fathers and sons. I think even though Robert didn't understand the path his son took, he was still enormously proud of him and just wanted the best for him because, as he says in the film, there's always looking out. Maybe the message doesn't resonate with everyone, and sometimes it gets muddled in there. I don't think, it's totally clear throughout the whole thing. But I think it's an important film and well worth your time if it's, it is at times slow and like I said, muddled. But like was saying in text, like if even one person watches this movie and decides to stop being a selfish dick who only cares about their own station in life instead of giving a shit about the people in it before, like when it's too late, when it's already like way past the point when you should have started giving a shit, then I think it's worthwhile to watch. And I think it's wrong to kind of cast him off as a, this kind of loser. Because I think that's a projection that he's seeing of himself. He's projecting himself as a loser based on what he thinks he should be based on his father, which I don't even think his father gives a shit what he does for a living as long as he's successful. And I think that's true of most fathers. Like, as long as your kids are able to take care of themselves, then that's the most important thing. For Nick Cage, I gave him an 8. Because like the same thing that Nigel said, like he just disappears in this role, and I think that's something that's kind of been lost. I feel like in newer Nicolas Cage movies, like the last like 6 or 7 years, it's Nick Cage, and Nick Cage is getting cast to play Nick Cage too often. I feel like, and this is such a like charming role for him, and like so transformative, because he really does turn into Dave Spritz in this movie, and I love it. I think it's a great movie. From my perspective, I really enjoy it. But yeah, I totally get what Nigel's saying. But at the same time, I've tried to like argue it back, but at the same time, it's like it's not on me to like change your opinion of the movie. Maybe your opinion will change over time by watching it again, or maybe it's also me casting my own like history on the film. And
the movies are back and forth between the viewer and the creator. Like any piece of art. So everybody's interpretation will look and feel slightly different.
I think that's one of the things, that contributed to the rating overall. 59% is not great. And I think that's, half the people probably felt the way that Vince and I did, and then half the people probably felt the way that you did. And both are valid in their own way. Yeah. So I think that's what's great about this show is like, up until this point, we haven't really disagreed much. And I don't feel like we super disagree on this film either. But I feel like... No. It shows that like we're not gonna every single time out the gates be like universally we all feel exactly the same way, and I think that's kind of great.
Well, when we recast Nigel, I'm looking forward to hear new Nigel's take on this film.